Good morning, members and friends of Calvary. It's time for your video devotion of the week. I'm coming to you today from my new temporary office upstairs next to the sound room. Looking forward to having my office completed sometime in the next few weeks, and trust we'll be able to be back in it and using it. I do look forward to that. Today we come from 1 Corinthians chapter 1. And a little bit of background, there was some dissension in the church. There was some division in the church. He says in verse number 11, "For it hath been declared unto me of you, my brethren, by them which are of the house of Chloe, that there are contentions among you." And then he goes on to explain the contentions, the source of the contentions. Some say, I am of Paul, and I am of Apollos, I am of Cephas, and I am of Christ. And so they're arguing sort of who had the better baptism. And this passage has been used incorrectly to argue that it doesn't matter where your baptism lies. No, rather it does, but it shouldn't be that within the same church there's fighting over the baptisms. There should be one baptism in a church and not multiple baptisms in a church. And so they're fighting over that. And so the Apostle Paul is addressing that. And he says this in verse number 17, "For Christ sent me not to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with the wisdom of words, lest the cross of Christ should be made of none effect. For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved it is the power of God." Verse 21, "For after that in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe." Verse number 23, "But we preach Christ crucified, unto the Jews a stumbling block, and unto the Greeks foolishness." And so the answer to the division, Paul really doesn't even get into the issue of baptism. He follows it up by saying, preach the gospel, and give the gospel. And can I say, for the most part, in my 20-some years of ministry experience, almost 20 years at this church, that when people begin to bicker and fight, most of the time, not all of the time, it could be fixed if they just go door knocking, if they just give the gospel, if they just care about lost people around them. I'm not minimizing real issues that can come up between believers within a congregation, but most of the time, if we have that much energy to fight and argue one with another, it's because we're not fighting and arguing with sin and with the devil and trying to see the lost come to salvation. And so this morning, just a reminder, if you're upset about something, pray about it, certainly. Care about souls, go door knocking, go on visitation, tell people about Jesus Christ. And if after all that it's still a problem, then great, let's deal with it. But most of the time, these things can be fixed just by reshifting our focus and getting it back onto the lost. Love you, Calvary. Look forward to Sunday.